Back to reality, but reality ain't a bad thing when you're LAFC. Hello and welcome to LAFC Plus, episode 61 of this podcast. He is the great Mario Ruiz. I'm Dave Denholm, and together we work on the LAFC radio broadcast on the English-speaking side. We have a lot of fun in this Club World Cup to get to, but we had a lot of fun doing the radio calls on LAFC.com. A little different, Mario. That was a lot of fun. Had a good time. I hope the fans enjoyed it. I know I did. Welcome to the show, of course, to everybody listening, Mario. Things are starting to take off for the show a little bit. We love that. We want you to keep listening, subscribing, give us thumbs up, whatever the positive things on any place you listen to this podcast, or if you go to YouTube and the LAFC page there, subscribe to that page, and then you'll get all these shows, including ours, LAFC Plus. Mario, good to talk to you again, buddy. It's been a whirlwind, hasn't it?
It has, man. And what a great experience for us to be able to do the games on LAFC.com, which was kind of unique and cool, but just an experience overall for the club to be in this great tournament among the great teams, all from all around the world. And this is where LAFC want to be at in 4 years from now, right? To be right back in this thing and just to help the club grow and keep going forward and be amongst the greats. And now, though, it's time to get back to MLS action because LAFC have some ground to make up in the Western Conference. And what a way to get back to action than to play against Vancouver, right? At home at BMO Stadium and to see the fans again. I know the fans are probably missing the players and being back at BMO and just that feeling of that unique experience of what is LAFC.
Yeah, speaking of unique experiences, certainly the Club World Cup was that. We'll talk more about that coming up. But Mario, got to tell you, look, most people are listening to this podcast. Again, you can watch this on YouTube if you want, and that's available each week. We do this podcast usually on Thursdays of each week. But also, if you watch this, you'll see this great lid Mario's wearing. This is one of my favorites, honestly. You got a lot of cool stuff, don't get me wrong. And you always dress very sharply.
One of my favorites too, yeah.
Yeah, but, in honor of the bit we do on this show all the time, right? So the fit check. Describe this lid if for people aren't listening, and most people know this hat, right? This is a very popular hat, but it's one of my favorites. I just thought I'd give you a shout out there.
It's the fitted, kind of like a Dodger hat. It's fitted.
Dodger blue,
Dodger
it's
blue.
LAFC's logo. Yeah, LAFC's logo. Beautiful. I love that one. I always have loved that one.
All the time.
That's a great one. Very cool. And Mario never misses with the fit checks. So,
thank you,
no
Dave.
question. No doubt about that. So you say back to reality, but that's not a bad thing. As Mario outlined, we're back to, MLS. We're out of the group, did not advance. LAFC finishing up strong, wrapping it up in fine fashion, not beating, I wish. They were up 1-0 after a goal by Denis Bouanga late in that game against Flamengo. But, of course, the Brazilians battled back for the draw to make sure they won the group. And, indeed, Flamengo did. It was a 1-1 draw against one of the biggest clubs in the world, Mario. But not only that, the best Brazilian side, for my money.
Yeah.
Flamengo leading in Serie A. They are super tough defensively, if nobody knows this, which I think we all do by now. But a team that's given up only 4 goals in 11 Serie A matches. And we've seen how tough the Brazilian sides are in general, right, in this tournament.
Yeah.
They're all advancing. So that means this Flamengo side is on top of Serie A, having given up 4 goals in 11 games and scoring 24 goals in that time against teams like Fluminense and Botafogo and all the other teams we're seeing be so good. This is how good Flamengo is. So deep. We saw the roster. We lived it. And yet LAFC went toe-to-toe. I mean, they were leading 1-0, could have got the victory. To Flamengo's credit, they kept battling, got a goal real quickly after that. And be honest, let's be honest. They hit some posts, as did we. It could have been very much different than 1-1, but that's how it ended. And LAFC played great. So did Flamengo, frankly, in that match. It was a good game.
Yeah, Flamengo really, they're really a top team in this tournament, I think. And, to win the group like that and for LAFC to do what they did against Flamengo, nobody else in that group did what LAFC did to Flamengo. LAFC played them really well. Flamengo has like you said, just an endless depth of just talent. They ran over
Chelsea. They ran over Chelsea.
And LAFC battled them to a 1-1 draw. And it was a game where, you could have thought, did LAFC really, want to put out their full squad, their strongest squad? Did they really want to go out there and just risk injury? But no, you didn't get any of that. You didn't get that feeling at all. They were going out there pushing, chasing for the win, almost got it, ended up 1-1. The $1 million goal, like my good friend Ronnie said, it's a $1 million goal from Denis Bouanga, which was historic for LAFC, first goal ever in the FIFA Club World Cup. Things would have felt a lot different, I think, if LAFC would have came up short, if they would have lost, or if they really would have got, ran off the pitch, which nobody thought that would happen. But it's just a tricky game, right? When you're already eliminated from moving on and you still have a game to play, it could have ended a lot differently. But I think the way the guys played, 1-1, they're coming out of this tournament a little bit more proud and with their heads held high and ready to get back to MLS action.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Very well played. And look, here's what it draws me to something that some of you are not going to agree with. All right. And that's fine, but stick with me here for a minute. I think one of the things we learned about this tournament or with this tournament is there's a lot of great football all over the world. Okay.
Yeah.
No question. It's not just in Europe. Now, I'm also going to make a point about Europe coming up here too. These European teams that we always put in quotes because everybody just labels Europe like they're all one big, thing. And there's nuances and variations there, right?
Yep.
My point is this. There's great football being played in South America, clearly. There's great football being played in MLS. Liga MX should be getting some love too. I mean, these two leagues are underrated. They always have been. Well, not always. Last 10 years. They still got a ways to go. Seattle didn't win. They didn't win games, but they played well, but they didn't win. They were beaten by better teams. LAFC lost to Chelsea and Esperance, and they didn't play good, particularly well against Esperance. They deserved the result they got. Esperance deserved to win that game, right? I mean, we still could have got the draw. Unfortunately, the keeper makes a great save on a penalty. That happens too. You're usually going to bury a penalty. We would have gotten a draw out of that match even realistically, even as if you're saying, but you can't discredit Esperance either. I feel like there's too much of that. Like we should have beaten them. Well, okay, on paper, we had a good chance. Yes, we're probably a better team, honestly. But they played better that night. They deserved it.
That team is so solid defensively, too. To score against that team was always going to be a challenge. And they do have some very talented wingers as well, in which we saw from Bel Ali, of course, and he did his thing. And it was always going to be tough. That team is, has so much tradition of winning. Yeah. That bleeds through.
That's my point, Mario. Look, you can go into any MLS. It's kind of similar to that. Like you go to an MLS game. If you don't play well, you're going to lose. Doesn't matter who you're playing. You have to be careful. And we didn't happen to have a good game against Esperance. Of course they could beat us. I was saying that all along. This is not some bad team. No disrespect to Auckland City, although they got a draw with Boca Juniors, by the way, and amazing. But they were getting blown out the first couple games, right? They weren't on the same level at all. Esperance is not a team that they shouldn't even be beating a USL 2 side in America. No, of course not. They're a giant. They're a giant club. They have great players who are professional athletes that make a fortune to play a game. They're going to come out with pride. It was a game they felt they could win, by the way. They had to be looking at that group saying, oh, we can beat LAFC. Of course, that's what they would feel. And they went out and did it, to their credit.
And LAFC, really, they went out there and played about 45 minutes, a good 45 minutes against that team. And they
got to play the 90, though. Yes.
Yeah, you got to play the 90.
You got to play the 90.
Five good halves. And just that one half against Esperance Tunis where they slipped up and they paid for it because why? Because Tunis is a really good team.
Yes, and that's the whole tournament. Yeah. These teams are too good. If you have a bad half, you're done. You're going to lose. You're going to get beat, or or maybe you don't pull out the victory. If you have a bad 10 minutes, Inter Miami, we'll get to a little bit of that. Dominating Palmeiras. They're too good. You give them 10 minutes and they come back and tie and win the group. Now, again, good result. But what I'm saying is these teams are on a level where if you slip up an inch, they're taking that mile. I've been saying it all along, including Esperance, and if Esperance would have made mistakes, which they really didn't, they played a pretty darn good game, probably played as good as they could. If they would have made mistakes, we would have pounced on them. We didn't, we just couldn't get it done. I mean, it's not like we were blown away by anybody of course not, but they were also worthy of it. It's don't denigrate an opponent because they end up beating you when you think on some paper in some false world we should be beating them easily. How do you know?
Another thing, Dave, the challenge for LAFC was, even though this tournament was here in the United States, I think all three matches did feel like they were away matches for LAFC.
Yeah.
That last match, especially against Flamengo, in South
Always
Florida.
gonna be, always
Wow,
gonna be
the atmosphere was incredible. It was an amazing atmosphere, but it was like 90% Flamengo supporters, and
kudos to
LAFC.
every last 32, 52 member that went, though, man.
Of course. They're representing too, and they're loud, but just outnumbered, and at the LAFC qualifying so late in this tournament, they only had like 2 weeks to make the trip and make the plans and all that. So the fans were definitely missed, LAFC fans. So it's good for LAFC to get back home to BMO Stadium. But Marky Delgado talked about it after the game against Flamengo about how they were missing the fans.
We definitely miss our group of fans. It would definitely make a difference in helping us push that extra bit that could possibly make a difference. So yeah, we definitely miss our fans. We're very appreciative of the ones who did come out to each game as well. But yeah, they were definitely missed.
I know those fans are going to be there at BMO Stadium. They're excited. I'm excited. I'm excited to get back to the stadium and see the boys and just kind of clap it up for them and show our respects.
That's exactly what I said. I said that on the broadcast. Get back to BMO and love love this team for what they did in representing us, and they didn't embarrass themselves like nobody. That's the thing about this turn. Even Auckland City, who got run over a few games, they get that draw against Boca Juniors when Boca was still alive going into that match. Needed to destroy. Frankly, they needed to destroy Auckland City, and he couldn't even get. They ended up getting a draw. Kudos to everybody in this tournament. I don't care if you went in and lost 3 matches. The Sounders did it. A few teams did, unfortunately. Tough groups. So what? Nobody embarrassed themselves. I mean, it was just a great tournament. It is a great tournament. It's still going on. Now we're getting to the knockout stages, Mario.
I think everybody in the black and gold grew, matured, came out with more experience from this. Even though the results didn't go the black and gold way, still everybody came out better, I think. The club, top to bottom, the coaches, the front office, just to be in this thing, experience what it's like to be on the global stage. I think everybody can build on this, and Timothy Tillman talked about that as well.
Confidence, or ended with confidence, and I think we all gained some confidence in this game because Flamengo is a really good team. They played very hard, or played very well, and it was very hard for us. But yeah, we managed to get through it, and now in the end we're not happy because we still conceded one very late. But like I said, we can build on that.
I agree, and the thing about it is, the longer we get away from it, let's say the next tournament like this approaches, you're always going to be so happy you were there, the first one. Like we've played in every expanded Club World Cup, right? We've played in every one so far, LAFC, because this is the first expanded version, the 32 teams, true World Cup format type. We've played in every one so far. We got to get back there in 2029. This tournament, Mario, I've said it before, we didn't know. We thought we knew it was going to be huge, and it's going to this thing is bigger. It's going to be more massive as it goes on in years to come. And I'll tell you what, too. Already, this makes the Champions Cup even bigger because that's how you get in this tournament. You know what I'm saying? Like, people who are kind of on the fence, or maybe not on the fence, but don't really follow the Champions Cup as much.
Yeah,
it makes
run
that
it down. Let people
bigger.
know how LAFC can get back into this FIFA Club World Cup.
You qualify for the Champions Cup in CONCACAF, first of all. You got to do that somehow. Now, there's many ways to do that. Most of us know it, but you win the Leagues Cup or come in the top 3 in that Leagues Cup against the Mexican sides. That's coming up in August, beginning in, later this summer. Or you can win the U.S. Open Cup, which we did, of course. That's how you get into the Champions Cup as well. And the Champions Cup is like the European Champions League. It's our version in CONCACAF. Or you win MLS Cup. There's various ways to get in through the league too. You win Supporter Shield. You finish certain places or whatever. You get into to an expanded CONCACAF Champions Cup, which is now the case, or it's not expanded, but like different form. But then you got to go perform there. You got to win Champions Cup. No easy task, of course. I mean, we know that Seattle did it. That's about it for MLS for the last however many dozens of years, going back a long time. It's mostly dominated by Liga MX, but now you got to win that. Because the next 4 teams that do it, of course, Cruz Azul already did it this year. They're in the 2029 version of this tournament. Now they can, and that's the thing, Mario. The quicker you get in, now you're starting to plan even more for it, or at least you have that to look forward to if as a club to really build towards, and
you know what's coming. Yeah, you know how to prepare for it. Mm-hmm.
Maybe not doing something next week for it, but you kind of have that, like, we're going to be in this tournament. We better be ready. Now, of course, LAFC got thrown into this thing. Club America, it would have been the same for them if they had beaten us. But so it was a bit of a kind of a weird situation that way. That'll all be taken care of going forward. Just win the Champions Cup. Yeah. Go do that. And now that's even bigger for teams. Not that it wasn't already massively important, of course. But to have this carrot hanging out there, Mario, this thing dangling in front of you, this tournament is too big to miss. It is too important. It's too much fun. It is just...
And you know what I really liked about LAFC's performance in this tournament against some really good teams is they really were strong defensively too, right? I mean, it really was a stingy defense, as we all expected. We all expected that Toronto defense to be strong. Only gave up 1 goal against Flamengo, 1 goal against Esperance, and then 2 goals against Chelsea in a game that they were really into the very, very end, and they were standing toe-to-toe against Chelsea, who's the, Premier League giants right there. So I really was impressed by the defense, who held their own, kind of like how we all expected and hoped for.
Yeah, it really was. It wasn't just good defensive work against Flamengo with the 1 breakdown, of course. Teams are going to get chances against you, especially when they're pushing hard to try to get back into a match. But yeah, it really was a good, solid defensive showing all the way through. Could the offensive maybe finish a little better? Maybe they needed to be a little sharper.
Oh, yes, of course.
And that's when you don't advance, right? You still got to score in this game to do anything, because 3 0-0 draws, you're probably going home anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't score, obviously you need to finish. We didn't do enough of that, certainly, in this tournament. It was good to get a goal, just to get on the board. And, certainly Denis deserved that one. It was a great play, catching Flamengo kind of napping a bit late in the game. They're tired, and Denis doesn't tire. We saw, we always talk about that. So he beats the offside trap brilliantly and finishes great. And look, it wasn't, that's the bottom line too. If Denis Bouanga is red hot in 3 games, he can get you out of the group. He wasn't.
Right.
That's the bottom line. And he wasn't bad. He didn't, he missed a PK, of course, or whatever. You still got to give a keeper credit sometimes for making a save. But he wasn't great. He wasn't the best Denis we always see. It just happened, 3 games.
Yeah. And he is hot in MLS, though. He is hot in MLS.
Yes,
that's why we got to give it up for him for winning that another 3rd straight MLS All-Star selection. Well deserved for Denis. He's one of only 4 players, on this year's MLS All-Star squad to have been named to an All-Star 3 or more times.
Nice.
So he's always, just achievement after achievement for Denis here in MLS in the black and gold. So he's cooking up again this year, leading with 8 goals, 5 assists through the 16 games so far in the regular season. So Denis out there, represent MLS very, very well. And that's why he has a bunch of teams looking at him, So Denis, keep doing your thing.
And look, and also, as Mario pointed out, 8 goals, 5 assists. Oh, by the way, he didn't have a goal in the first 7 games, I think it was.
He does this all the time, doesn't he?
Yeah,
it takes a minute for Denis to get hot, yeah. But when he does, he gets hot.
Year. Absolutely. Finished the last 2 seasons with 20 goals, so he's well on his way. Look, we got a whole half a season left. We'll see how it plays out. But that half a season, actually, LAFC hits the midway point of their schedule in MLS, because we had to put a few games on hold here for this tournament.
Yeah.
They do that Sunday against Vancouver. The Whitecaps will be coming to BMO Stadium. No easy task there. Now, in fairness, the Whitecaps are really shorthanded. That's no excuse for them. Hopefully, LAFC comes out and takes care of their business at home and destroys them no matter who's playing. The Whitecaps are missing a lot of players right now with international duty, some injury, of course. Ryan Gall still hasn't played, but he hadn't been playing all year virtually, so that's not. But it's Sebastian Berhalter, Brian White, Sam Adekugbe, Jaden Nelson, all gone at the Gold Cup still. So, yeah, and they took it on the chin Wednesday night. They got beat up by San Diego 5-3. So it's a game that, bottom line, LAFC feels like they're going to go in and get the full 3 points at home, which we do anyway against anybody in BMO Stadium, certainly. But, yeah, you got to take advantage, no doubt. But Vancouver's been incredible this year. They deserve where they're at, up near the top of the West, now 2nd in the West after San Diego leapfrogged them after that victory. But again, they actually have a couple of games at hand on a few teams too. So they still have that going for them. But you really see this as a team that is going to have to make some adjustments because of the players that are missing. LAFC can take advantage of that. They've got to take advantage of that and come out and play well.
Yeah, I've always thought that Vancouver it was a good team, but I've always thought that they were overachieving. Even early on, I just felt like it's, way too early on in the season, first of all. And I think that they're playing way over their heads right now. And I knew it was going to come down, slow down. And I think we're kind of feeling that a little bit right now, not just because they lost that first place slot last night against San Diego, but I think it was coming, and I think they do have a lot of good players. Don't get me wrong, like Tristan Blackman, who's playing like an all-star. That's why he just got selected to the all-star team, which is well deserved.
Yeah, one of
four guys on that team. Yeah, they have some good players, of course. Another guy, Takaoka, is a guy who I remember last year on this podcast, this time last year when it was about the All-Star time. Which players do you think are good enough in MLS that might get overlooked, might not get selected? And I liked Takaoka. That's exactly who I picked. I said I like him as a keeper, but I don't think he'll get the selection. This year, look, he got the All-Star selection. Great. That's awesome. Well deserved. But I think to be a really good team, I think you got to have that depth, because there is going to be times we need you to rotate. There's going to be times like this weekend where it's international duty. You guys got Vancouver has guys that are hurt and they're missing a bunch of players, and a bunch of key players. And a good team, a great team is going to have depth to get through these moments. And I think, it's a good time for LAFC to come back to BMO Stadium, go up against a team that's above you in the standings, go in there and, take the 6 points, because this is one of those 6-point matches right here. So take the 6 points here, and really get back to MLS and get it rolling and start climbing the Western Conference table like you need to, because you have about 3 games in hand now, because of all those games that have been postponed. You have about 3 games in hand. It's time now to make up for that and to make up ground.
Yeah, one of the things we've never really seen out of LAFC is that even after a high, they don't come back and just kind of have a terrible performance. Let's say this is coming off a high of the Club World Cup. That's tough. Coming back into reality. That's why I say it that way. You're back to the grind. You got a lot of games coming up in the near future because of some of these postponed games due to this tournament. So it's going to be tough. But it's not a team. We don't usually struggle with that. Like, you can come off a big loss and LAFC will all of a sudden put off a great victory just days later. So I'm not worried about the focus of it, but I like that we're playing Vancouver for the reasons Mario is saying too. It's a team above you. It's been a great team this year. And they kind of bit you back at their place when you were up 2-0 early, and they don't quit, which they don't. Vancouver will not quit, and they got the 2-2 draw out of you. That kind of almost felt as decent as it was to get a draw then against Vancouver on their home turf. Don't get me wrong, they were flying, but it also felt like could have got more. Maybe should have gotten the full 3 points. So I think it's good motivation coming off this high that is the Club World Cup. No matter what happened in that tournament, it was always going to be amazing to just go and be involved with it. Your club is in there, one of 32 in the world. But then you got to come back. At least I think it's a good challenge to hit the ground running. A, it's at home, thankfully. It's good to be back. You don't have to go travel somewhere. And B, it's against a very good team that you're battling with in the West. I think this is actually a good way to kick off what is essentially our second half of the season starting.
You talked about motivation, Dave. I'll give you some motivation. LAFC is just 1 point above the playoff bar right now. Ooh. Yeah. So it's very, very tight in the middle of the Western Conference table. You got San Jose, who's right above LAFC. Then you got Seattle, Austin. All those teams, there's 4 teams with 26 points. So it's going to be a huge weekend. There's going to be a lot of shifting as far as the standings come because LAFC is back in the mix now. But yeah, I mean, to be back at BMO Stadium, I just can't, stress that enough. It's like been on this Sunday when LAFC play, it's going to be 3 weeks exactly since LAFC have been at BMO Stadium and the fans have been able to cheer on the boys. So everybody's excited just to come back. It does. It really does.
But it's interesting though in the sense because when you look at these type of games like that, again, it's a 6-pointer and everything, and games in hand we all love. You love to be the team that has games in hand, but it only matters if you get 3 points. It only matters with games in hand is if you actually go win them. Otherwise it's like, what good is it? Okay, great. You have games at hand. You got to go get those victories. And you can't always presume that, of course, but with LAFC, you got to feel good about having those games in hand and going out and getting it done and climbing up the table, as fast as possible, certainly. And of course,
and Vancouver's going to be motivated to get back into the winning column because they lost 5-3 at home at BC Place to San Diego. So Vancouver, they're going to be pumped to bounce back from that loss, which was, I think, it was a pretty devastating loss.
Mm-hmm. Tough one there. Well, could Inter Miami be on the verge of a devastating loss in the round of 16? They have to take on European champs PSG on Sunday in Atlanta. Here's my whole take on this, Mario. Inter Miami, no MLS team was expected to get out of their group. Inter Miami got out unbeaten. I mean, they're playing good. They deserved it. They beat Porto, one of the giants of European football. Really, and honestly, they were the better team. These are not flukes. Played Palmeiras, toe-to-toe. Maybe could have got a win out of that if they could have held on. They kind of ran out of gas, and Palmeiras just kept coming and in waves, and just they deserved the 2-2 draw. Played Al Ahly tough, and really that was the toughest match they had in terms of the actual opponent, the way they played. The opponent, Al Ahly, played a great game in that match, and Inter Miami actually got away with a 0-0 draw to start that tournament. What a performance! And I don't care if PSG goes out and smokes them, which I don't necessarily know is going to happen, but I don't even care. Like, kudos to Inter Miami, Mario. They deserve a lot of credit. And here's the thing, too. Look, yes, a great free kick from Lionel Messi in the Porto match. It hasn't been all Messi. It's not been all one man dragging them through this tournament. Their defense has played a lot better. I think Javier Mascherano has done a really good job setting up this team against each individual opponent. I really do. I mean,
he does a good job in game too.
Yes. Oh, halftime adjustments. Yeah, you're right. Second half. Look, people say, well, he couldn't, the subs didn't work in the final, Palmeiras came. Okay, well, the subs didn't work. He took out guys who were dead tired after 3 straight matches of, 4 every 4 to 5 days, bam, bam, and tried to put in fresh legs.
Exhausted.
Didn't work. Yeah, okay. And Palmeiras had something to do with that too, by the way. And they're a great club.
Of course,
it's not just always, it's not always just one team, screwing up, but so what? So what? They got through unbeaten, a win and 2 draws. They get through a tough group, and they get to play the best team in Europe, the European champs, just like Seattle. That's awesome. That's amazing.
Dave, this is showing how MLS is really, really growing, by leaps and bounds each and every single year. They're trying to, as much as they can to close the gap with still big, I'm talking about big obstacles in the way, like stacking up against rosters like Chelsea when it comes to salary and all that stuff. It's just no comparison, right? But MLS is trying. They're trying to get world-class, experienced players, and matching them up with young, talented, promising, talented players from all over the world, mainly like South America. This seems to be like the formula, right? But those salaries is a big issue. It's hard to compete with that, Dave, and it's just not fair, in my opinion. But to put up, these type of performances like LAFC have, and Inter Miami especially making it through, and in a big match against PSG, really says a lot. And I agree with Mascherano, because Mascherano in the one of his post-game interviews, he was saying, the rest of MLS should be proud of what Inter Miami is doing. And for me, I'm proud. I'm proud of what Inter Miami is doing. It's growing the league. It's putting the league on the world stage with a good roster of talented players. It's saying, hey, look at this roster. This is an MLS roster with Messi, the greatest player in the world right now. And he's surrounded with some really good players as well, a really good head coach. Look what MLS is doing.
Yeah, look, here's the thing. I understand what you're saying about the rosters. And I know, managers, several managers have brought it up in certain situations. Our very own has talked about it more than a few times. But, it's also the case where we know this going in. Like, these are the rules, okay? Like, we're in a different system. We can't then say, it's not like FIFA demanded MLS to have these rules. Quite the contrary. These are the rules of the league that you are playing in, that you're being paid by to play in, coaching in, broadcasting in. These are the rules of the game, essentially. Now, again, this is not like FIFA said, you, America, have to do this. That you're the only ones. And boy, that would be unfair. Of course. That would be unfair. But I'm sorry. It's just, no, it's fine. This is what it is. It is what it is. Auckland City was a semi-pro team. They don't even have guys that get paid much, like really. So you come to this type of tournament, who cares, And we see it all the time. Look, Monterey pays more. I get it but they don't. Monterey doesn't pay more than other teams that are in the tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, that's just the way it is. Of course, somebody's going to have to pay more than everybody else. As it happens, a lot of the money in world football is in Europe. Okay, they pay more. They get more of the better players, no question. But that doesn't mean there aren't great players in every corner of the world, as this tournament is pointing out. That's just the bottom line. So you got to make it work. Wherever you are, whatever team you are, it's not like we're not moving LAFC to the Premier League. That ain't happening. Monterey is not joining Serie A in Italy. That's just not how it works. So be it. Grow the game here. Stop complaining about MLS, American soccer fan, and start supporting it. Because it's been 30
years. That's another issue. That's another issue,
But
Dave.
Here's my point, Mario. If these people who complained about it all along would have been supporting it from the day one, we'd be bigger than most of these teams.
Yeah. There'd be more money.
30
in
years.
This league.
Yeah.
Right.
And everybody keeps saying it's only 30 years old. Yes, in relation to other leagues that have been around 100 plus years. 30 years is a long time. Could have changed a lot if you'd have been watching it on TV from day one, like I was.
Oh, yeah.
And like Mario was. So stop complaining about it. I don't want to hear from you. Stop telling me it's not Liverpool. I don't care. And not only that, Liverpool wasn't in this tournament the last I looked. So they can go pound salt too. So, I don't care. I'm tired of it. Like, don't tell me about these American soccer fans who think they're too cool for school because they get up at 5 a.m. to watch Liverpool. Here's the real reason they do that. They don't know anything about the game. They get up that early so they can get on with the rest of their Saturday and they don't have to be bothered, but they can pretend they love the sport. And they're Liverpool fans or don't give me your garbage. And I got Dave, a few friends
tell me how you
the
really
same
feel.
Thing. Yeah, I'm tired
Tell me
of
how
it.
you really feel, Dave.
Seriously, I don't want to hear from you. You Chelsea fans. You're not really. Stop it. You get up early on the West Coast so you can go have the rest of your Saturday at the beach and pretend you love soccer and pretend you know what you're talking about, but it's over by 7 a.m. or 9 a.m. That's all you're doing. Stop. Okay? You want to talk to me about soccer? You go down to watch the Galaxy then. Fine. I don't, I'd rather you go to LAFC, of course, but you go support one of your local teams and be diehard about LAFC or the Galaxy or Alta FC, or Orange County. Don't give me your Liverpool or your whatever. By the way, there's more than 5 teams in the Premier League. You probably don't even know that, Mr. Poser. So stop, just cut it out. But anyway, we digress. I'm tired of, this is what this tournament shows. There's great soccer all over the world, bottom line. And Inter Miami deserves to be in that round of 16, Mario, and kudos to them. And look, they might get run off the pitch against PSG. Seattle didn't. Well, I'm just saying. I mean, Seattle's not the best team in MLS right now. Mm-hmm. They didn't get run off the pitch by the mighty European champions, So, I mean, you go play. They're grown men.
Yeah. I'm proud of MLS because I think these are the top 3 teams that I would have just handpicked to get into a tournament like this. If they said pick 3 MLS clubs to go into the FIFA Club World Cup, LAFC, Inter Miami, and Seattle Sounders. I mean, those are really good clubs, winning clubs that have really done the most they can to really win every single match, win every single tournament that they're in. So kudos to those 3 clubs for representing MLS and for Inter Miami to keep pushing the bar because, look, I was at Disneyland yesterday and I saw a bunch of Inter Miami jerseys, which I always see, all over the place. And there's people out here in the U.S. that are out here in California because they came to the FIFA Club World Cup. Because the other day I was in Hollywood and I saw a bunch of jerseys from Flamengo and all these other teams, River Plate, bunch of teams. And it's cool to see all these jerseys, but to have, MLS in the conversation, I was talking to one of the guys at the concession stands at Disneyland and I saw his name and then underneath his name, it shows where they're from. He was from Madrid, Spain. I said, oh, you're from Madrid, Spain? He's like, yeah. And I said, so you're a Real Madrid fan? He's like, yes, I'm a Real Madrid fan and an LAFC fan.
No, there you go.
Yes, I love that.
I can live with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's real, he's from there.
Right, he's from there. That's his team, but he lives out here, so he chose to pick a team out here locally, which is great. And it happens to be the black and gold, which I love that even more.
Absolutely. That's great stuff, really. We can talk about a lot of this, and we will, of course, going forward with this tournament still in action. No doubt the Club World Cup still rolls on. LAFC again back in action in MLS. There's other MLS action this weekend.
You know what's funny too, Dave, is the fact that because we have these conversations like this, like before the show starts, and we're like, okay, we got to stop our conversation and hit record and start doing our show. And then we start our show, and then we talk about all this stuff, and then the show is over. We say goodbye to everybody. Thanks for listening to LC Plus, and then we keep our conversation going. It's just nonstop. So to be able to do this LAFC Plus podcast is so fun to let everybody into the conversations that you and I have.
That's exactly right. That's why we're at 61 here. This is 61st episode, and we appreciate every last one of you who are listening in or clicking on in YouTube or whatever. Tell your friends about it if you love us, if you love LAFC, if you love MLS too. You know, it's like we do talk about other things in MLS, including this Columbus-Philadelphia game coming up on the weekend here. Sunday, in fact, same day as LAFC will be taking on Vancouver. There's a lot of action on Saturday. We prefer this Sunday game to kind of focus on. It's a big one. You know, Columbus, to me, Mario, they had a nice game the other night, Wednesday night. A nice, very good performance. And they've only lost 3 games this year. It's going to be weird for me to say. They've only lost 3 games in 19 games, right? They're hard to beat. But, and it's not just Cucho leaving, which is a huge thing. It doesn't quite something feels different about this Columbus Crew team. And I don't know if, you know, maybe because of the rules of MLS, as we talked about, where you can't just keep spending, you know, and they haven't replaced Cucho to the level of a Cucho, let's say. You know, they've brought in some other players, good players, you know, but maybe it's more like teams are starting to figure them out a little bit too. You know, again, because, you know, you can't just run away and hide from other teams in a league like this. This isn't the Premier League. We just go out, spend everybody, and everybody else panics and sells off their best players to you just to make sure they make money. This is like a league that you have to really continue to kind of stay at a certain level and continue to, you know, everything from top on down. Now, I'm not saying Columbus is, you know, taking any major steps back here, but they're not as like, ooh, Columbus, you know, and I think Philadelphia is a team that's, Philadelphia is not going to respect anybody. We know that. They're just going to come and punch you in the face as often as they can and hope you fall down. That's just what the Philadelphia Union do. They're so good. I think Philadelphia's got a good shot here, even on the road in Columbus. This is an interesting game, though.
I think Columbus did have to take a few steps backwards because of the players that they did lose. And I think they were just going through a phase and a little stage of getting to know each other and getting that chemistry, building that back up. But I think that they are going to build that back up when it really matters, which is down, you know, towards the end of the season. And I think that they're really climbing towards getting back to that rhythm and that form that we're used to for the Columbus Crew, you know. But yeah, they had a big win, you know, against Vancouver a couple games ago, which was a big win. That's when Vancouver was in first place. So that was a big win for Columbus. And now they're facing another team in Philadelphia Union, first place team again. So let's see how they do here. But I think for Columbus right now, this little stretch that they're in right now, after playing Vancouver, after this game against Philadelphia Union, they have another game against Seattle, which is a big match. After that, they play against Cincinnati. So we're going to see what Columbus is really made out of here in this stretch. And I think they've been handling it well so far. And if I was them, you know, I would feel pretty confident about how they're playing right now and just kind of building and heading into the right direction. I would be worried if I was an Eastern Conference team, and I think they're going to be up there towards the top.
Yeah, you're probably right. Look, I'm not trying to pick on them. They got 3 losses, as I said, out of 19 matches. Like, they're not in trouble. That's also impressive. A case where, excuse me, I kind of thought they might have went and replaced Cucho. Maybe you can't find a guy like him, probably. I mean, he was incredible. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you got a lot of money for him. You thought maybe, I'm not saying they've pocketed all the money or they're not out there trying to improve the team or anything. And who knows? Nobody knows Columbus Crew better than right now Wilfred Nancy and their Issa Tall, their general man. I mean, I get it. They're great. They're a great organization. But it's like, I also kind of thought maybe by now they would kind of have tried to replace, if you will, Cucho again. Maybe not replace, but make that next big move, right? If you're going to let your fan, you know, because, hey, everybody, we won a title. We're doing great. We're going to sell Cucho. Nobody's upset about that. Cucho wants to go play in Spain, in La Liga. Sure. I mean, it's Real Betis, one of the great clubs of Europe. Absolutely. You get big money for him. everybody leaves happy, essentially. No, we don't want to see him go, but it's like, yeah, okay, with our blessing, thank you so much for all you did, and we get some, pretty good return and transfer fee. Godspeed, Cucho, all the best, right?
But now who's our new player?
Yes, I mean, at some point, look, that doesn't mean you go spend exactly the same amount even, I'm not saying it's a business. I get it. That's a lot of money. They reaped a good reward on buying Cucho, with the transfer fee they did pay and then helped develop him. And he did his part, certainly becoming a great player and earned every bit of his move to Europe. But, again, Mario, it's a big world out there with a lot of talent.
There's a lot of rumors of a lot of talent, that could possibly be coming to MLS in the summertime too.
It doesn't take $50 million either, yes, there are teams that are going to pay that. And frankly, there are teams that have to pay that to get the players that they need at the level they are in terms of, some of the top 4 or 5 clubs in the world I'm talking. But not every, nobody pays that other than, there's a lot of great talent in this world. This isn't the NBA. Right? This isn't where our league is really kind of it. Not, no disrespect to some of the other European basketball, but you get my point. There's not enough talent for more than about 15 teams in pro basketball in the world. I mean, in soccer, there's too much talent in terms of, there's thousands upon thousands of great players out there. So, that's the beauty of it on some level. But I thought Columbus might do a little bit more to improve this roster, but as Mario said, they're going to be right there, I'm sure, in the end. I'm going to look like an idiot, and I'm sure that's quite true. But I like what Philly's doing. I mean, again, another team that's not exactly doesn't break the bank by any means, but that's their style. That is their thing. They have never done that, and it works for them in a way. But this is a good matchup. I mean,
they'll be missing Andre Blake, right, on international duty with Jamaica.
Very true.
Yeah. Big player, captain. Yeah.
But their backup. What is it? Is it Andrew Rick? Is that their backup? Maybe I'm getting I apologize if I'm blanking on his name. We only play them once every 3 years, but very good backup. He's a good keeper. So, yes, they're missing Andre Blake, but it's not like it becomes a weakness so much with that team. But what's the other matchup you like this weekend?
So let's go to the West. I mean, I think on the West, there's a big matchup between San Jose, hosting the Galaxy. San Jose is right above LAFC in the standings, but these matches with the Galaxy are always entertaining matches. It's that Cali Classico that they've been, calling it for years now. It's like a classic, like a derby match there between these two teams. But this time, huge Western Conference implications, so that's big for LAFC, so I'm pretty sure LAFC will be keeping an eye on that. I know I will, so that's the one I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, the thing about the Galaxy for me, I've seen enough. Apparently, they're only going to play well twice this year. First game against us, and then the upcoming one against us in July. Those are going to be their 2 best games every season. We always get the best out of everybody. Don't get me wrong, but especially
they
the
look
Galaxy,
top class against LAFC for some reason.
They're terrible every other week, and then they'll still give us a game because that's the LA Derby right there.
That's how derbies are, though. That's how derbies are. Like everybody always says, throw out the standings, the record books, whatever. That's how it goes in these derby matches, especially with the Galaxy.
No doubt. Well, it is a massive one for LAFC back at BMO Stadium Sunday night. If you can't get out to BMO, join us on the radio. We're taking on Vancouver. We're back with our usual 710 ESPN and the ESPN LA app for these MLS matches. And, of course, the pregame begins at 6 p.m. A little special kickoff time there, a little slightly earlier maybe. 6 p.m. Pacific, 6:30, right around 6:40 kickoff for that one. You'll hear it all again on 710 ESPN and the ESPN LA app. LAFC hosting Vancouver. Mario, it's been a ride. Another great episode, but a great time for the Club World Cup. Can't wait to get back to MLS now, though. Here we go. Let's start the second half with a big win. Great stuff. Take us out of this episode, man. Always a pleasure, buddy.
Looking forward to getting back to BMO Stadium, being amongst the fans, and I know the players are too. They miss being in that locker room. They miss feeling that love from all the fans and just playing on their home pitch. So it's going to be good, and it's a big match against Vancouver. Big Western Conference implications on this match, so let's go get it. Hope to see everybody there. If not, check us out on the airwaves or on the ESPN LA app. It's been a good one. LAFC Plus, that's Dave Denholm. I'm Mario Ruiz. We'll catch you on the next one. All right, peace, guys.